You know those places people dare each other to enter, the ones left to rot at the edge of town, where broken fences lean into cracked roads and the weeds grow taller than the windows. There's one in almost every town, and in Danvers, Massachusetts, that place was the Callahan House. It stood just beyond the old railway yard, a two-story Victorian that leaned sideways like it had grown tired of standing. The roof was caved in. The bricks wept green moss. Windows shattered like broken promises. People didn't walk past it. They crossed the street before they got near. But the strangest thing was the way the house seemed to breathe. Locals swore that if you stood close on a cold night, you could see the curtains inside ripple, even when there was no wind. They said it was like the walls were exhaling, slow, deep, and full of something dead. Thomas Callahan, a retired railroad worker, moved into the house in 1963 with his wife, Margot. They kept to themselves. She wore black, even in summer. He only came out at dusk. They never had visitors. And after a few years, people stopped seeing them altogether. One July morning in 1966, the mailman noticed the door was ajar. Inside, he found dinner on the table, a record turning endlessly on the player. Chairs pushed back like someone had stood up in a hurry, but no sign of Thomas or Margot, not even a suitcase missing. The police searched the entire house. No forced entry, no signs of struggle. Dogs lost their scent at the top of the stairs. It was like the couple had simply evaporated. The case was marked as unsolved. The town moved on. The house didn't. Decades passed. The Callahan house grew older, uglier, meaner. Teenagers dared each other to knock on the door, but no one ever made it past the porch. That is, until 3 high school seniors, Miles, Rachel, and Jonah, decided to go all the way in. It wasn't about vandalism. They weren't trying to be edgy. They just wanted a story to tell, one last rush before graduation. So they brought a crowbar, a GoPro, and 3 flashlights. They didn't bring fear. That would come later. They picked a Saturday in late October, the kind where the moon is too bright and the cold bites your fingertips. They walked through the railway yard in silence. The wind didn't whistle. It groaned, like it was warning them. The back door gave in easily. The wood was swollen and soft. The hinges let out a sound like a dying breath. Dust clouded the air as they stepped inside. Every footstep echoed too loud, the kind of silence that waits and listens back. Jonah led the way, sweeping his flashlight across the ruined hallway. Faded wallpaper curled like dead skin. A long mirror on the wall had cracked into a spiderweb of reflections, and in each one, their faces looked a little off. Rachel trailed behind him, holding the GoPro close to her chest. The red light blinked steadily. "We're live," she whispered. Her voice barely made a sound, like the walls were swallowing it. Miles hesitated at the doorframe. He looked back once, toward the yard, toward the streetlight flickering in the distance. A part of him wanted to go back. A deeper part whispered, "It's too late now." They passed a broken grandfather clock. The pendulum was still swinging, no ticking, no heartbeat, just that slow, hypnotic sway, even though the clock face was cracked and stuck at 3:11. In the parlor, furniture sat under yellowed sheets, shapes like bodies frozen mid-movement. One chair had fresh indentations like someone had just stood up. There was a piano in the corner. Its wood was warped and its keys were cracked, but 3 of them had blood on them, dried, dark. One of the teens touched it. A single note played, deep and wrong, like something old had just woken up. Above the piano hung a portrait, Thomas and Margot Callahan. She wore a black lace veil, even in the photo. Her face was pale, distant, but her eyes seemed alive. Even Jonah muttered, "She's looking right at me." Miles reached up to touch the frame, maybe tilt it back into place. It fell. Cracked glass rained down, and behind it, carved directly into the wall, were 4 words etched in jagged lines. "Still here, still hungry." Rachel laughed nervously. "Okay, this is getting too Blair Witch. Someone probably did that for a prank." But the air had shifted. It was thicker, warmer, like the house had just exhaled. Farther down the hallway, a door stood open just a crack. Wooden stairs disappeared into darkness. The basement. Jonah raised his flashlight, but it only lit the top few steps. The rest was swallowed in pitch black. "Nope," Miles whispered. "Nope, nope." But Rachel was already walking toward it. The basement door creaked wider as Rachel pushed it with her fingertips. A foul smell wafted up, damp, rot, and something metallic. She gagged. Behind her, the red light on the GoPro blinked, still rolling. Jonah followed reluctantly, flashlight trembling in his grip. The beam flickered. The stairs groaned beneath their weight, each step threatening to collapse. Miles stayed at the top. "You guys are insane." The basement was larger than it should have been. The walls were stone, wet to the touch. A single light bulb swung overhead, casting long, dizzy shadows that made the room feel alive. They found an old crib in the corner, not a speck of dust on it. Its mobile still spun gently, playing a warped lullaby tune that no one had wound up. On a workbench, rusted tools sat arranged in a perfect row. Too perfect. Each blade faced outward, each handle pointed toward them. A hammer had what looked like hair caught in the claw. Jonas stumbled back and his flashlight hit a mirror, but it wasn't their reflection staring back. It was 2 strangers, a man and a woman, standing perfectly still in the dark, smiling. Rachel screamed. The mirror shattered, nothing behind it, no one, just a wall. Jonah dropped his flashlight. The room blinked into darkness for a split second, and when the light came back, the mobile had stopped spinning. Miles finally stepped down, breathing hard. "You hear that?" he asked. At first, no one did, but then a soft, dragging sound from the far end of the basement. Closer, closer. They ran up the stairs, tripping over each other, but the door wouldn't budge. It was like something held it shut from the other side. Something strong, something patient. Then a whisper directly into Rachel's ear. "Don't go!" She froze. Her breath hitched. Miles had to pull her up the last step. They burst through the door, falling back into the hallway. But something had followed them out. They stood in the hallway, gasping. The door to the basement slammed shut behind them without a touch. A cold gust blew through the corridor. No wind, no windows. The sheets on the furniture fluttered like something had brushed past. Miles spun around. Is there a draft in here, or did something just walk by? Jonah checked his flashlight. It was dimming again. The bulb pulsed like a heartbeat, then steadied. Rachel glanced down at her hoodie. Dust, but not from the basement. These were fingerprints, long, pale impressions across her back, like a child's handprint dragging down her spine. A photo frame lay on the floor now. None of them remembered seeing it before. It held a black and white picture of the three of them, Miles, Rachel, and Jonah, standing on the porch of the Callahan House. But it looked old, like it had been taken decades ago. Jonah's lips trembled. We need to get out, now. But the front door, when they tried it, opened into another hallway. Same wallpaper, same mirror. They hadn't exited, they had looped. Behind them, footsteps began, light, barefoot, like a child walking over wood. One step, pause, two more. Rachel turned. No one there, just the piano. Its lid was slowly lifting. The piano played a lullaby tune. Not from the keys, but from inside the instrument, hollow, distant, like something hidden in the strings was breathing the melody out. They bolted into a side room and slammed the door. It didn't lock. They pressed their backs against it, listening, breathing, then thud from the ceiling above. Then again, something was crawling in the walls. The light flickered, and the wallpaper peeled away to reveal scribbles underneath, dozens of them, carved into the plaster. Let me out. I saw her eyes. She never left. All in childlike handwriting. A shadow passed outside the door. It paused, scratched once against the wood, then silence. Rachel mouthed, "Please go away." But deep down, they all knew it wouldn't. Rachel leaned closer to the door, holding her breath. No more scratching, no movement, but her flashlight picked up something on the floor. A faint trail, like something had been dragged. It ended right under the door. Jonah motioned toward the other side of the room, a tall wooden wardrobe. "We can hide in there," he whispered. Rachel shook her head. "That's the first place it'll look." She wasn't sure what it was, but she felt it watching. Miles pressed his ear to the wall. "There's something inside, crawling, breathing." His voice cracked. "It's like the house is alive." Then a soft knock echoed behind the wallpaper. 3 taps, then a giggle. Suddenly, the light bulb in the room popped, plunging them into total darkness. Rachel fumbled for the flashlight. When it clicked back on, writing had appeared on the mirror across the room. "You're mine." The temperature dropped instantly. Frost formed along the corners of the glass. Rachel's breath came out in mist. "We have to get out of here," she said. "It's getting stronger." The GoPro beeped once, then died. They rushed back into the hallway. The same hallway again, but this time the sheets were gone from the furniture, everything exposed. The chairs, the couch, all turned toward the hallway, as if waiting. A child's toy rolled out from one of the rooms, a wooden duck on wheels. It stopped at Jonah's feet, then began moving on its own, backward, into the darkness. No one followed. Miles swore and pointed at the wall. A door had appeared where there wasn't one before. old wood, a rusted handle. Rachel approached it cautiously. Her hand trembled as she reached for the knob. The moment her skin touched the metal, the lights in the hallway flickered violently. A loud crash echoed behind them. They all turned, but nothing was there. When they looked back, the door was wide open. Inside was a narrow tunnel, dirt walls, wet, close. It smelled like rot and old secrets. Jonah looked at the others. This is a bad idea. But Rachel was already stepping inside. She didn't know why, only that something was calling her name. Rachel stepped into the narrow tunnel. The walls were dirt, wet, close and breathing. Her flashlight flickered weakly, casting erratic shadows. Jonah and Miles followed behind, hesitant. Their footsteps sounded like they were walking inside something living. The tunnel had no end. It coiled like a throat. The air grew colder, the walls sweat. Then the whispers began. Children's voices. Stay here. Don't leave us. We're so cold. Jonah's knees buckled. These aren't alive. Up ahead, Rachel stopped. There was a small circle of wooden boards in the dirt, like a makeshift stage. At the center, a broken doll, and under it, an old photo album. It opened on its own. Inside, dozens of old photographs of children, their eyes scratched out, each one with a name crossed out in red ink, except the last three. Jonah, Rachel, Miles. We're next, Miles whispered. The walls shook. A shadow peeled itself from the dirt and slithered toward them. No face, just eyes, childlike, unblinking. It opened a mouth impossibly wide. The scream it released wasn't a sound. It was pressure, darkness, rage. And it swallowed the light. They woke up in the living room. The door was open. Sunlight poured in. They didn't speak. They didn't look back. They walked out of the Callahan house like survivors of a war. But a week later, Jonah vanished. Miles was found wandering alone, whispering it never left. And Rachel, she replays the GoPro footage every night, frame by frame, in one, just one. She sees a fourth figure between them, a little girl with eyes as black as the tunnel. Police found nothing. Callahan House remains listed as vacant, but locals say some nights, if you stand quiet enough, you'll see lights flickering behind the windows, and if you're unlucky, you'll hear it. A child's laugh, echoing from underground. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of They Broke Into an Abandoned House and Never Came Out the Same. If this story gave you chills, imagine what else waits in the shadows. Subscribe to Sounds of the Unknown for more terrifying true tales, forgotten legends and haunted places you've never heard of. Hit the bell so you never miss what lurks in the next episode. Leave a comment below. What was the scariest moment for you? Until next time, don't trust an empty house and never follow the whispers.